This week is Banned Book Week. So I thought it'd be fun to highlight 5 banned books that I really enjoyed. Now, these are not necessarily my top 5 or anything. In fact, there's a lot of books on that list that I still want to read. But I thought it'd be fun to just take sort of a sampling of 5 books that I really enjoyed. This comes from the 100 Most Challenged or Banned Books as published by the American Library Association. So let's get started. First up is an absolute classic that I just read last year, and that is Beloved by Toni Morrison. This is searing. This is beautifully written. It is hard to read at times. It is amazing, and it should not be banned anywhere. Of course, yes, there are themes that are adult, so that should be considered, but whatever. I'm not going to go into the reasons why all of these shouldn't be banned, because none of them should be. But Beloved is excellent, and I highly recommend it. Next up is the epic sci-fi graphic novel Saga. This is an ongoing series, but it took a very long break for a while after they came to a certain stopping point in the story. I've only read up until that point. I'm waiting for basically the run to finish before I finish it. But what I've read so far is fantastic. Disappointingly, the ALA website only lists Brian K. Vaughan as the creator of that book. This is a graphic novel. When you list the writer, you should always list the artist, especially when it's Fiona Staples, who brings such beautiful life to this graphic novel. They are both the storytellers. It's beautiful. Check it out. Next up is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. Now, the interesting thing about this book is I read this a long time ago. It was about the time it came out, so it's been almost 20 years. It was a time when I was really just kind of getting back into reading after taking a very long break. And it was kind of mind blowing at the time, just because the perspective was so interesting. I really enjoyed this window into this very singular mind. And I don't know how it's held up, and it'll be interesting to see, if someday if I reread it, if I feel differently about it. But my memories of it are very fond. Next up is Fun Home, a family tragicomic, another graphic novel entry on this list. This is by Alison Bechtel. This is another one that I've read a very long time ago when it first came out, but it really has stuck with me, like at least pieces and parts of it, and the overall sense of just how well judged it is. I love memoir when it can be very specific and really kind of transport you into a different life, and this one definitely qualifies. And then finally, a pick for spooky season, Scary Stories by Alvin Schwartz. The entire series is on the banned list, apparently. And this is such a great gateway horror. But kind of like Fiona Staples with Saga, I don't really think you can talk about Scary Stories without mentioning the illustrations. As great as the stories were, I honestly have to tell you, Stephen Gammell's illustrations were a huge part of the draw and the fear factor for these books for me. They really brought the stories alive in a way that just enhanced the text. And I have such fond memories of reading those stories, and it makes me want to read more, honestly, for October. So those are just 5 of my favorite books on the banned and challenged list. I have a ton more of those books that I want to read, some which I actually physically own already and want to get to soon. But just remember, if someone wants to keep you from reading a book, what do we say to them? That's right, fuck you. And then go read the book. Disappointingly, the ALO disappointingly, the ALO